Hello and welcome. Well, now, earlier this year, 10 of RT's GAA correspondents and commentators got together to discuss the last 40 years or so of Gaelic games. Well, after much debate, most of it, I have to say, reasonably civilised, we actually chose our 20 most memorable moments from that era. Well, tonight here on the programme, we're going to show them to you. But apart from just enjoying them, we'd like you to have an input as well, because we want you to vote for your favourites. Take note of the following telephone and text numbers, and they're the same for all of the clips. On the phone, you'll be asked to quote the moment number of your favourite clip, or if you text, start the text with the word moment, followed by the number of the moment of your choice. OK then, in the first half of the programme, we're going to show you our first 10 from that selection. At the moment, they are in chronological order, going back to the 60s. And sadly, in the very first clip you're going to see, we've lost in the last couple of weeks one of the players featured here, the great Matty McDonagh of Galway. So with fond memories of Matty, let's have a look at the first 10.
The 1966 All-Ireland was the fourth one we were in, and the third one we were hoping to win. So they would be favourites going into that final. And we took the field that day thinking that we were really up against it. We started awfully well. And we scored a number of points, and there was no reply from Leith. And then just before half-time, Matty got a ball.
And from the kick out, the ball going. No, Liam Salmon doesn't let it go over the sideline. He gets it and sends it up and on the right wing to Cyril Dunn. Jack Quinn comes out, tackles him, but the referee waves on the play. The ball across the front of the goal. It's a goal!
It was a defining moment of the match for us, really. It was great that Matty got that goal because, you know, he set his own record on the day, and he was the first Connacht player ever to, and the only one, to win 4 All-Ireland medals. And that's a record probably may never be broken.
Such an integral part of the 3-in-a-row team of 64, 65 and 66. In fact, Galway scored just 1 goal in those 3 finals, and Matty McDonagh was the man to score it.
He was inspirational really for the team, that team, because he came from the 56 team. And he was the father of the team really, you know, and a great leader.
He had a huge frame, a superb athlete, big heart, and an excellent football brain.
But above all else, Matty represented everything that was positive and good in human nature. I had tremendous respect and regard for him as a person, and I was so sad when he died recently. But rest assured, his name will live on forever.
Jack Quinn comes out, tackles him, but the referee waves on the play. The ball across the front of the goal. It's a goal!
Well, there's lots to be remembered from the 1971 All-Ireland. I suppose there's a lot we'd like to forget about it too, because obviously we were beaten by our great rivals Tipperary in that final.
1971 in hurling was really Michael Babs Keating's year. He scored goals, he scored points, but he made them as well. But what he's remembered for is playing on his bare feet.
And the barefooted wonder with the ball now.
I had a very, very good pair of boots stolen the last night training, so I reverted to the old pair. Brought him into the shoemaker in Clonmel, and he dressed them up for me. He was too intent on adding an extra few nails, so one came up through. I'm sure it was I think it was the right-hand boot. Now, can you imagine me out in Croke Park, a nail up through one boot? Now, you discard one boot, and you're lopsided, so you have to take off the second boot. And then the socks come down over your toes and begin to trip you up. So this is how Micheál O'Hare described the barefoot Babs Keating in Croke Park.
And the barefooted wonder with the ball now. And it is, it's a goal! Jimmy Ryan the scorer, and that, my friends, is that.
I thought he was very brave in the middle of an All-Ireland to go around, and us looking at him from the other side of the field, and hurls flying everywhere, and heavy clashes, and Babs was there in the thick of it. But he's, you know, one of the bravest players I've come across anyway, and he had an outstanding game, and I suppose had a big impact on Tip's win that day.
Babs in bare feet, like a pilgrim at Lochderg.
Eddie Kerr was a truly great player and a scoring machine. He was to Kilkenny then what DJ and Henry are in more modern times. I mean, in finals, 14 points in one, 2-11 in another, 2-9 in this one, 17 points in a semi-final.
Many people regard, I suppose, the 70s team, as it's known in Kilkenny, as one of the great Kilkenny teams, and probably one of the great teams of any county, of any era. But in '72, Cork came out of Munster and they ended up as favourites for the final. And I was picked that year for the first time. I was always playing in the half-forward line, and I was probably slowing down at that stage, and I was picked at corner forward, and there was quite a number of people who were sort of surprised in a way. They felt that I should still be in the half-forward line, but you know, that's what the selectors decided.
Cork, we were well up at half-time, but going into the second half, Eddie Kerr was moved from corner forward out to wing forward. Tony Marr, our Cork cornerback, was doing absolutely very well in marking Eddie in the first half. And there was a little bit of indecision in the Cork defence whether Tony Marr should follow Eddie out to the wing or whether he should stay back. And in that fleeting moment, Eddie found a little bit of room.
Frank Cummins was in the middle of the field. He contested the ball, and Liam O'Brien, I saw him getting the ball, and I saw him looking at the spot, and I ran for that spot.
And Dennis Collin, lovely bit of feeling in the centre of the field by Dennis Collin. Lovely bit of hooking there by Frank Cummins, and a lovely bit of follow-up by Liam O'Brien. Liam O'Brien for Kilkenny up along the wing. Eddie Kerr grabbing that ball.
He hit what I thought was a kind of a high angle shot, but obviously there was a lot of spin in it because our goalkeeper Paddy Barry couldn't block it, and it spun off his hurley into the net.
I have to be honest, I was hoping to land maybe outside the square, but with the wind and I put too much spin on it or whatever, it kept going in.
Eddie Kerr grabbing that ball into his left hand, and away he goes up the wing. A shot from way out the field. What a goal! What a goal! What a goal!
It wasn't one of Eddie's greatest goals, I felt, but it was a very, very important one for Kilkenny because it reduced our lead down to 1 point, and it certainly threw Kilkenny a lifeline.
It was the best All-Ireland final I had played in and probably saw as well, because it had everything. It had fantastic scores from Cork, fantastic defence from Kilkenny particularly in the last 20 minutes, and we got enough scores to win it.
When you look back at that final, Eddie Kerr scored 2 goals and 9 points, and it was a marvellous contribution from Eddie Kerr, particularly in view of the fact that in the first half he was well tied up.
The first time Jimmy came to my mind and to public prominence, I suppose, was in 1973, the All-Ireland football final between Cork and Galway. I was 9, Jimmy was 19, and he had the swagger, he had the looks, he had the gatch, as we say in Cork, but he was absolutely superb.
When I think of Jimmy Barry Murphy, there's two words really that spring to mind. One is cool and the other is cheeky. We had a great back line and we had a very good goalkeeper. We were confident enough that we'd be able to manage this, and we didn't really look at him as a great threat.
Well, I got a goal early on which came back off the post and I fisted in, but the second goal in particular, I suppose, came at a very important time of the game. I think when Galway come back into the game at big time and were coming at us very strongly, and we broke away, and it was at the end of a long, very good passing movement that I got on the end of it and scored the goal.
And Jimmy Barrett, Jimmy who seems to be everywhere, right through the centre to Ray Cummins. Ray Cummins down, up and on the wing to Jimmy Barry Murphy. Jimmy Barry on the 14. What's he going to do? A goal!
He turned around, raised his hands to the heaven. He was an icon, and that was the day a star was born.
No inhibitions being so young, I didn't feel the pressure of the occasion. I certainly felt it in later years, but I have to honestly say that time I didn't feel any pressure. I was confident, cocky I suppose you might call it, and I wasn't worried about losing or the fear of losing or not trying something different, and certainly in latter years I would have felt that much more, but at the time I didn't feel any nerves whatsoever, and I was prepared to try things that I wouldn't have done later on in my career, I think.
He didn't just blast them into the net as the normal players at that time would have done. He picked the spot, and in the crowded goal mouth he was able to just slot it in. Now it rarely hit the back of the net, it just trickles over the line really, and they were the type of goals that he got.
I suppose it set me up really, made my name in many ways, because I played minor all right with Cork, but this is the first win for Cork senior football in 28 years, and so it was a huge thing in the county and something I'll always remember.
Right through the centre to Ray Cummins. Ray Cummins down, up and on the wing to Jimmy Barry Murphy. Jimmy Barry on the 14. What's he going to do? A goal! There he is, the young man with the goal-scoring touch. He may be 19, but he surely joins the football immortals.
74 was a great year because we'd got to the All-Ireland really by sheer determination.
The Dubs had been languishing in Division 2 of the league. They were going nowhere. Galway were contesting their third final in 4 years. But suddenly, under Heffo, the Dublin team began winning. A whole cultural change happened. The Dubs flocked to the hill, Heffo's army. Everyone started wearing the county colours, the chants, the buzz. It was brilliant, brilliant time.
They scored a goal earlier on, but the game went okay. We were only 2 points down at half-time. Early in the second half, then Alan Larkin takes responsibility for the penalty, and he knocked Liam Salmon over, and Liam Salmon got a penalty, and at that stage it was going to be 5 points if it went in. I never believed in moving for a penalty. I always had a system of walking out of the goal, letting the guy put the ball down, having a look up, see a big gap, and then I'd walk into the middle, being tall.
There is a penalty now for Galway, and Eddie Cullen, heaven help him, in there in the goal, and Liam Salmon, who has never missed a penalty, going to take it. Here it comes. And he saved it! He saved it! Oh, Paddy Cullen! Paddy Cullen has saved it!
And the thing about a penalty is, you know, it's never easy scored in Gaelic football. And if you couple that to the fact that you had in Paddy Cullen one of the top keepers in the country, it was a factor, of course. If we scored it, we probably would have won the match. But I can tell you we had missed an awful lot of chances much earlier than that.
For me, his save in the rain, I was wearing a paper hat with my friends from the Gaeltacht, the colour, the blue ran into my hair. It's just a great moment.
People say it was a bad penalty. I think it was a good penalty. I think it was a great save.
The All-Ireland is on!
Well, 78 was a bad year for me.
The main memory of 78 would be that we were in serious trouble for the first 20 minutes in the game. And then I think we had a breakaway from the middle of the field and John Egan got a goal, you know. To me, that was a turning point in the game. And then just before half-time then, we had the famous incident with myself and Paddy Cullen.
Jack O'Shea, shoulder to shoulder. Oh, a lovely ball, a real attacking ball. It's deflected out, and it's gone very near the end line. Paddy Cullen going out for it. And Paddy Cullen. Oh dear, oh dear. Paddy Cullen judged. Oh, a goal in the greatest streak of all time.
Talk about unrehearsed drama. You can practice almost anything going into a big match, even a big final. But I would contend that where that particular kick was concerned, that came naturally. Just place the ball down, and the genius in Mike Sheehy came out on that occasion.
What I think earlier on was that Ger Power and Paddy had a bit of an altercation, as we'll say. You know, the crowd reacted, some of the Kerry crowd reacted. I think Paddy maybe, you know, just pulled him or something when the ball had gone away. And then there was a couple of balls went into Paddy, and the Kerry crowd were still giving him a bit of grief.
The booing you hear is for Paddy Cullen, the goalkeeper, because of that foul early on Ger Power.
So when the famous incident happened, he came out, picked the ball up perfectly, passed it to Robbie Kelleher.
Ger Power came in, just brushed against me, and the referee blew for a free in, pointed in. I couldn't believe it, put my hands up and pleaded with him.
There's no doubt in my mind, but the Kerry player was fouled by the Dublin goalkeeper, and I gave an appropriate free in.
I had 6 months of kind of hell after that, because I mean it was down to that goal that everybody put the game down to, and they were probably right.
For 10 years after that match, I got a phone call around 3:30, 4 o'clock, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, from a couple of individuals claiming to be Dublin supporters with abusive language. I had 4 young kids at home at the time, and it wasn't very pleasant. I got threatening letters in the post, I got all sorts of things. But I was such a nature that I had to hand them into the Gardaí to do action.
It's one score that will never be forgotten, and I can assure you it changed the history of Kerry football as well, that one.
All-Ireland 1980 was just the culmination of dreams and wishes and passion and everything you'd want. Words cannot describe, to be honest, about it, what it is when you have won All-Ireland medal, and for us to have won it after 57 years is even better again.
I would rate that speech of Joe Connolly's as the best I ever heard at any sporting arena.
It's more than another dumsa. Ma chaptain on Cornshaw Laka, son and Nilug. is ionta chuir láin nniu le bheith mar ó ghailehach. Tá daoine éis an gáile agus tá glindar na gré a freisin caiimiid críomna bhfuil daoine is Sasna, America ar fud na tíre agus tá sé beidir a clean is láthas. People of Galway, we love you!
People of Galway, we love you!
He didn't talk about the match, but he spoke about what it meant to Galway followers and those that were abroad but always had an interest in hurling, what it meant to the underdogs. But above all, it was spoken in Gaeilge Áraí Connemara.
I had nothing prepared for a start, because after 57 years of losing, I thought it'd be tempting fate to be writing anything down. But I knew I would say it in Irish, because that's my native language. But I think that the whole occasion just became a wonderful West of Ireland occasion because of the fact that I spoke it in the Irish language, which is such an identity here. And the fact that John McDonagh afterwards then sang The West Awake.
I am with you now, this September day.
Well done, Joe McDonagh!
Years afterwards, when I became president myself, I was told by the Freeman brothers that they had been ordered by somebody or other in higher authority to get me, for God's sake, down off that podium because they weren't too sure where I was exactly going to finish.
You know, now it's 25 years this year since we won it, and that's incredibly hard to believe that all that time has gone by since we did win the All-Ireland. But you don't every day think about it or whatever, but I certainly know that it had a huge influence in my life.
We were all like brothers, really, and it was a very close-knit panel, a very close-knit team, and we were there kind of with one ambition in mind, that generational struggle to win finally the All-Ireland hurling title and bring back the McCarthy Cup west of the Shannon.
People of Galway, we love you!
In 1981 All-Ireland, I think we were going for our 4 in a row at that time, and it was a very good game. I remember quite a lot about it. We were playing an off-league team who were playing very well at the time and who were thereabouts for that number of years and had contested an All-Ireland semi-final the previous year.
Kerry were always scoring bags of goals against Offaly that time, and we were happy enough coming towards the end of that game because we had given away no goal. But then I think it was about 3 or 4 points in it, about 7 or 8 minutes to go, and 3 inside forwards in the Kerry team, I think Liston and Sheehy especially, they combined to set up Jack O'Shea.
And it comes up now to John Egan. John Egan up to Owen Liston. Liston back to Egan. And now they're really rolling. Egan across to the far side of the field. Mikey Sheehy. In it goes now. And a goal! The first goal of the game. Jack O'Shea, the scorer.
I can still distinctly remember the net shaking. I knew that was it. The show's over then. So in that regard, it was a crucial goal because it gave Kerry the 4th success of All-Ireland. And that was the platform, of course, that they needed to mount the all-out attack on the famous 5 in a row the year after.
Well, for me, this goal was Gaelic football's equivalent of the greatest try in rugby scored by Gareth Edwards for the Babas against the All Blacks. This was Kerry at their majestic best. This, for me, was a symphony of graceful movement, style, astonishing athleticism. What a crescendo it rose to. What a dazzling finale.
I can never remember that man missing a challenge, league or championship game for Kerry in my time. An unbelievable run that man had. That was one of the great scores.
Since then, Mick O'Dwyer has said to me a few times, maybe I should return the ball back to Mikey Sheehy. When he'd given the ball to me, he came for the return pass, but I had only one thing in my mind when I got onto the 21-yard line and just had one look, see where Martin Furlong was and let fly. And I suppose, you know, when you're growing up and playing an All-Ireland final, it's a great thrill to play in the final. But to score a goal in an All-Ireland final, I think, is probably the highlight of anyone's career, and that's probably one of my highlights of my career. Well, the 1982 All-Ireland, I suppose we were going for 5 in a row at that time, and which hadn't been done. I think Wexford were the last team to do that, so it was a long time since it was done, and it probably would have been the crowning of our team, I suppose, to achieve that. There was a lot of expectation there that year, but as players, I don't think we felt any pressure really.
We were closer to Kerry in 81 than the public gave us credit for. It kind of went unnoticed how close we were. We'd curbed the forwards for the first time, so we spent the whole season planning for it, and we really believed we were going to win that match. I mean, people find that hard to believe because Kerry was such a powerful force at the time.
I always remember we coming out of training on the Thursday before the game, And there was some guy outside selling 500 t-shirts. Now, we had no control over that. We didn't want that. And people were saying, make sure now that you're down in Sneem on Monday night, you know, with the cup and all this. Like, I mean, but the players knew we had a job to do, but we didn't have any control on how people were thinking.
I can remember we were just going out on the field, ready to take the field, and Eugene was standing at the door. And he just stopped us and he said, right, lads, today there's going to be history. Kerry are either going to make history and we're remembered for that, or we're going to stop them and we'll be remembered. So it's over to you.
We were very happy with how the game went. I think it was in close contention at half-time. We should have been a couple of points ahead. A crucial point during the second half, obviously, was when Kerry missed the penalty.
I would have been quite happy to step aside, but there was no volunteers coming to take it, you know, so unfortunately I took it and didn't particularly strike it well.
With 7 minutes to go, I was brought in as a sub. As it happened, we were down 4 points, and we got it back to 3. They went back 4 again, but we got 2 frees then and we got down to 2 again. So with time ticking away, Eugene McGee did tell me going in that myself and Matt Connor, if either of us got a chance for a shot at goal, we were to have a go.
2 minutes left in the game. Kerry leading by 2 points. And it looks as if they were winning the way the off-day man are just diddling and dawdling there. And here they come. This is Liam Connor, the full-back. A high lobbing, dropping ball in towards the goal now. A shot. And a goal! A goal! A goal for Offaly! There was a goal in the game!
A very important factor in relation to this whole incident was that we took off the right half forward, John Guinan, and he was being marked by Tommy Doyle, who was playing left half back, obviously. And as was the custom at the time, when the sub came on, the man whose opponent had been taken off picked up the sub. So Tommy Doyle automatically picked up Seamus Darby and followed him. And that meant that Tommy Doyle suddenly found himself playing at right full back, where he had never played in his life.
Of course, the debate was centred on whether Seamus Darby pushed Tommy Doyle or not. The referee I've spoken to, Mr McGrath from County Mayo, has said no, absolutely not. Perfectly legitimate goal.
When the final whistle goes, you know, and the people are in on the field and people are going mad or and crying, and it kind of gets to you, and it's a bit of a disbelief for a while.
Oh dear, what a game! What a game! That is one of the most sensational finals I have ever seen.
Well, for me personally, I got back down to Waterford and didn't leave it for about 6 to 8 weeks. I was so down after it, actually, because we'd put so much into that and we were hoping that we would certainly have won that one.
When we got back to Tullamore on Monday night, I can tell you we knew we'd achieved something very special.
My memories of, I suppose, the '84 Ulster final is the name Frank McGuigan.
It was centenary year. The game was being played in Clones. Munster hurling final was in Thurles the same day. Great things happening everywhere. I was in Clones, and I saw something I never saw before or since. A player kicking 11 points from play in a provincial final.
I didn't even know how many I had scored till after the game, when I was talking to Michael Murherdig after the game, and he told me I had scored 11, and I didn't think it was that many, you know.
O'Hagan finding Frank McGuigan. McGuigan looks up, gets sight of the posts, and it's over for the first point of the match to Tyrone. This is Plunkett Donaghy. Dangerous ball inside. Frank McGuigan once more gets a fist to it and sends the ball over the bar. Plunkett Donaghy to try and get Tyrone going once more. Here's McGuigan, the man who's caused so much trouble so far. And yet again he does it.
We had changed a couple of players. We took Kieran McNally out of cornerback, and who had a bit more pace than Thomas Cassidy, to see could we counteract it. Now, he did stem Frank slightly, but not that efficiently. Frank just steamrolled on and kept knocking him over the bar.
And just look at that for pinpoint accuracy.
Frank had the misfortune to have a very serious car accident, and unfortunately I think Frank only played one championship match after that, and that was it was very disheartening for all Gaels across Ireland to probably miss the talent of Frank McGuigan for years to come.
I wouldn't think it was maybe the best game I ever played, but The 11 points from play was highlighted all over the country, and it was an exciting time. But I always maintain that it's a team sport, and that day, it was a good team effort. Our half-backs and midfield were winning everything, so it was getting a good supply of the ball. So all I had to do was kick the ball over the bar, and I figure from 30 yards, most people shouldn't be missing,
Oh, what a great display there by Frank McGuigan, and it's nice to see that in more recent years, of course, Frank's son Brian has featured on successful Tyrone teams. Now, it's time for us to take a commercial break right now. When we come back after that, we'll have the remaining 10 from our selection. And you're welcome back again to RT's selection of the 20 most memorable moments in Gaelic games from the past 40 years or so. Now, just a reminder to you once again that although you're seeing these for the moment in chronological order from the 60s right up to more recent times, you can have a big input into the final selection by voting for your favourite. And you can do that anytime from now, indeed, up to and including our live show next Saturday, that's May the 7th. Okay, time for us to see the next 10.
It had to be one of the most extraordinary things that ever happened in Croke Park.
This was 1987. It was the National Football League quarter-final between Dublin and Cork.
We were 2 points up with a couple of minutes to go. Glenn O'Neill at the time, Cork were attacking, and he picked the ball up in the square, gave away a penalty, and from the resulting penalty, Cork went in and scored the goal, which put them a point in front. With that, John O'Leary, quick thinking that he always had, he gave a quick kick out. Fortunately for me, I was the one that caught it and turned 30 yards out, didn't know where to go, but just turned and kicked it. All of a sudden it went over the crossbar, so that ended up being the draw.
Walking off the field, and all of a sudden we hear the guy in the loud hailer saying there'll be extra time played in the game today.
Cork officials came onto the pitch at the end of the match and spoke to the players, and people were very puzzled. The Cork team went off the field. Was it for a pep talk? But they never came back on.
Inside the dressing room, the door closed. We were all getting ready for extra time, and somebody said, "No, that's it. We're not going out for extra time. There'll be a replay next week."
But in the meantime, after all the waiting around and the puzzlement, the ball was thrown in.
There's no Cork team here. There it is. Dublin, the only team on the field. This is absolutely ridiculous. Bardi Rock with no opposition. The first and the only time I have seen this in Croke Park. Dublin score a goal, and presumably this absolutely farcical end to a football game proves conclusively that Dublin are the team to qualify for the semi-finals.
And watch for the celebrations in the hill afterwards. Even though there was no opposition, they went mad. They loved the crack of beating Cork again.
We got on the bus and we were heading for the train, and I'll never forget this old man. Actually, he was walking along, quite feeble, with his stick, and he having this stick in front of him. And we just looked down at him, and he barely able to lift his hand, and he gave us the 2 fingers as we passed in the bus. Actually,
the following night, I think it went into GAC, and they threw Cork's appeal out, and we went on then to win the National League in 1987 against Kerry.
Bardi Rock with no opposition. The first and the only time I have seen this in Croke Park. And it's all over. And the sides finish level. Unbelievably so. The Munster Championship unresolved.
We were lucky enough the first day after drawing with Limerick. I think we got a point from Kean Kingston, the last bucket of game, to take us to a replay. So the next day we had to go back to Thurles to play Limerick. It was a beautiful fine day, I suppose, type of day that Cork colours really revel in, and we were playing much better, and just before half time Limerick got a point, and I remember saying to myself, we must go back up the field now and get a score just before half time to kind of go in on a bit of a high.
That's touched on by Jim Cashman into space. Tomas Mulcahy with Leonard Enright. Comes for John Fenton. Oh, what a brilliant goal! That's a smashing goal. The smile on John Fenton's face says it all.
Tomas Mulcahy, who was playing full forward at the time, happened to be out around the middle of the field. And what he was doing out there, nobody knows.
John and a few more were getting over the hill at that stage, and they were leaving it to the younger fellas to try and win possession for them. So that's why I found myself out there trying to win ball. And as the ball broke, I think the key factor here was John Fenton's first touch. He saw a few players in front of him and he actually just touched the ball 5 or 6 yards ahead of him.
Now, coaches everywhere have been roaring at players, young guys, hit the ball on the ground. Most people pick it up. It was John's instinct that came to the fore there. He hit it beautifully. The dynamics were perfect, the wrist action and so on, and it flew in past the late Tommy Quaid.
And if you look at the actual completion of his pose when the ball is gone, the right leg is up off the ground. Like, he actually ran into the ball at full speed, and there's not too many players in the country could do something like that.
Okay, you don't like to admire a goal from the opposition. At the particular time, I hated him for it, you know. But afterwards, when I saw it again and again, and he had this ability to hit the ball, and it would be barely going over the bar, and suddenly at the last second, it could dip. And that's what actually happened, and it caught Tommy completely unawares. It caught us all completely unawares.
I remember the great story about the late Dennis Conroy, who was chairman of the Cork County Board at the time, and after the game, Dennis was walking across the field and he was accosted by an irate Cork supporter who was complaining about the tickets he had got from the county board, that he couldn't even see the goal that John had got. And Dennis responded quick as a flash. Don't worry, he said, Tommy Quaid, who unfortunately is no longer with us now, said poor Tommy Quaid didn't see it either. They're in the same boat as him.
I was very grateful for the umpire for raising the green flag immediately, because quite honestly, I didn't know where that ball was.
To me, it was one of the best goals that I've seen scored, certainly. And when you look back in that, I mean, it's a joy to watch. I mean, it has everything that is good about the game of hurling.
That's touched on by Jim Cashman into space to Morris Mulcahy with Leonard Enright. Comes for John Fenton. Oh, what a brilliant goal!
Well, we had that mini-series in 1991, Meath and Dublin, and this was the 4th game.
It was a very special time. It was very unique in the history of football. And looking back on it now, I suppose I would have felt anyway that there was 3 of those games that we felt we should have won. But the 4th game, I think we had 2 periods of extra time before that as well in the 2nd and 3rd game. And I think in each of the games we got ourselves into good positions to win the game, but we weren't in the final game, and in the last 5 or 10 minutes of the final game we were never in a better position.
And the game was almost over, and Dublin again were attacking, and personally I hadn't played well in the game, and I was just drifting the far side of the field, and it seemed to go in slow motion in ways.
It was like watching a slow car crash. You could just see that there was a goal going to be scored here.
Nice pass played inside very quickly by Matty McCabe to Liam Harnan. They're trying to organise a late scoring opportunity. Meath needing a goal to carry the match into extra time yet again. Beggy. It's still possible. Foley. Into Gillick. A lot of poor marking by Dublin, and it's Tommy Donis going to run through the heart to Foley. I don't believe it! Foley has scored! They're level!
Foley, wonder goal. If you were to bet, you'd get 1,000 to 1 that Kevin Foley would score. So you could say with Foley, he really was the gamekeeper turned poacher.
I think the goal, not my scoring of it, but the goal itself and the movement epitomised what Meath football was about and what Meath followers expected from us. And that was never to give in. As bad as we were going and how much we were hanging in, we kept going to the end, and we would see it out to the end, whatever happened.
And that was only actually the equalising score of the game. It's actually the point by David Beggy after was that winner for me, but I think we had just got so rattled with that goal.
Being at the end of a series like that, for a few moments it felt like it was an Leinster final or an All-Ireland final that we'd won. I guess it's only later that you realise we were still just past the first round, but in the context of the moment, you know, it was like an All-Ireland final to win. It was great.
Often described as the 5-minute final, Offaly scored an incredible 2-5 in the dying minutes to win the 1994 All-Ireland hurling final and record one of the greatest comebacks of all time.
Limerick were winning the game most of the way through. They were dominating the game. We weren't playing particularly well. And with about 5 minutes to go, we were 5 points down. It looked like the game was all over.
Well, as a sideline reporter, my brief was to grab the winning manager at the end of the game, and so my beat was somewhere between the 2 dugouts. I was eyeing both dugouts, but with Limerick 5 points up with 5 minutes to go, I thought Tom Ryan would be my man, and I started to edge down that way.
I remember walking up the sideline with about 7 minutes to go, and Martin Hannamy asking me how long was left, and I said 7 minutes. Just keep plugging away. And then I turned to come back, and Offaly had got a free. and Johnny Dooley was standing over it, and I think it was about, I don't know whether it was 25, maybe 30 yards out. And he looked over at me and I pointed. My thought straight away was, keep on scoring points, goals will come. So I said, go for it. I just pointed upwards.
Would he go for a point? I think he's been instructed to do so. He's going for a goal, and he's got it! A goal and 3 points!
And then the floodgates seemed to open. And Limerick, I think, panicked at that stage.
Johnny Picklin won the puck out and hit it straight back into Pat O'Connor, and he scored an excellent goal. You know, it was a great goal that put us in the lead.
Offaly now feeling that they can turn the tide. Pat O'Connor's in. It's another one. It's another goal. Pat O'Connor has got it. Offaly are in front by a point. Joe O'Connor taking it away as far as Dave Clark. Dispossessed by Billy Dooley, taken here by Brendan Kelly. Kelly playing it out to a loose man, who's Johnny Dooley. Is that a point? It certainly is. A goal and 4 points now all of a sudden for Johnny Dooley. Come on, we can do it, he's saying to his colleagues. What will be the Limerick response? McDonough. Towards Frankie Carroll, beaten for it by Hubert Rigney. Comes back to Johnny Pilkington, striving to take it up. Good vision, seeing that John Troy was free. Troy trying to tag on another point, but that's over. Yes!
And then it finished with 3 points from Billy out on the sideline, you know, and people will always remember that as well, because he seemed to, you know, be flat out on his feet, you know. He was trying to catch his breath, and next thing the ball kept coming to him, and, you know, like, it was a great way to finish in All-Ireland.
As Billy Dooley fires in another beauty. An amazing transformation. John Troy picking it up again. Fired outside towards Billy Dooley on his left-hand side. It's just like routine practice now. A 4th point for Billy Dooley. Brendan Kelly has come out the field. Back again to Billy Dooley. Nobody marking him, and that's 3 in a row.
I had to make my way up to the other dugout then, where Eamon Cregan, a Limerick man born and bred, of course, the Offaly manager, he was absolutely shell-shocked.
As a Limerick man, it was extremely difficult. And with 7 minutes to go, Limerick were leading. And I thought the match was totally gone. And then suddenly the match turned around on the free, Johnny Dooley's free. And then have to go into the dressing room afterwards, into the Limerick dressing room afterwards, try to calm them, or like, it was a terrible dressing room to be in, having lost in All-Ireland. Any dressing room is terrible to be in, but to be a Limerick man going into a Limerick dressing room afterwards was just, I hated every second of it.
With 5 minutes to go, if you dreamed about something like that happening, you know, that's what you do when you're a boy, and, you know, it came true.
You've got to recall that in 1995, Clare hadn't won a Munster Championship since 1932. And there was suddenly this moment when people in Clare suddenly believed maybe we just might actually do it this time.
We hadn't allowed Limerick to dominate from the start, even though they were hot favourites. We had a few narrow escapes, mind you, but then we had taken control of the game. And I remember Conor Clancy being fouled, you know, and a dispute over whether he was fouled or not, but we got to 21 anyway, and Davy coming up to take the free.
It's strange for a goalie to take it, but it doesn't matter. I suppose if he scores, they'll be delighted.
Number John Commons of the 1986 All-Ireland final. David Fitzgerald, here's the goal chance for him for Clare. He scored! 28 minutes into the first half. And now he's racing back, and the puck out's been taken.
I had never taken a penalty in any shape or form before that, and it was Ger Lucknan came to me the week before, and he said to me, Fitzy, how are you fixed for taking a penalty? And I was taken back a bit, but Shawnee Mecca got injured in the Cork game, broke his collarbone, and I suppose Ger felt he wanted someone else to hit him, so I said, fair enough. I didn't think I'd be called into action so quick.
But even better than his shot was his self-confidence, you know, and in a Munster final, especially in the situation that Clare found themselves in that Munster final, having been beaten and trounced in the previous two, if we did get a penalty, I think the most important thing that any person taking it would have would be confidence. And Davy has that confidence.
I'd got an injury about 10 minutes before it, and I remember going up the field, I was limping, I was in a lot of pain, but I had thought a lot if I did get a penalty where I would hit it, being honest, and I knew where I wanted to put it, and I just remember the second I hit it and it hit the net, it was the most incredible feeling, absolutely incredible. And whatever bit of an injury I had for about 5 minutes disappeared anyhow because the adrenaline was pumping.
And it gave everybody, players, management, everybody, supporters that were there, it gave everybody the confidence that maybe after all that our look would change on this day and the result would be different. And so it was.
Seeing people close to me and their reaction afterwards, there will nothing ever pass that out.
In all my years of going to big events at Croke Park since I was a young fella, I don't think I ever saw anything quite as extraordinary as that 98 All-Ireland hurling semi-final. Here was the situation. Clare All-Ireland champions. Offaly went through a crisis earlier in the summer, but had won their way back to the semi-final. And although they played well on the day, there's 2 minutes left in the game. Clare are 3 points up, and it looks like Clare are definitely heading to the All-Ireland final. And this extraordinary thing happened.
It was the second game of 3 games, and the first game we had dominated from start to finish. We felt we were a bit hard done by in the first game, as in we didn't get our fair share of frees. They got 25, we got 12. The replay day came out all guns blazing, and they dominated the game from start. Literally, half time, I think after half time they went 10 points up. So we were trying to claw our way back into the game, and we had it down to 3 points with about, I think it was 2-3 minutes and a bit of injury time left. So we felt we were still well in the game.
That's away by Kevin Martin, not too far. Keenan trying to get it out. Barry Murphy trying to get it back in. This is the man. And the referee has blown up his whistle, but I think he's blown up before time. I think there are 2 minutes left.
I blew the final whistle, but I was 5 minutes short in that game. People say 2. I actually played the 30-minute second half. There was 3 minutes of injury time, which meant that there was 5 minutes still to be played in it. Within maybe a minute, which seems a long time when you're in a position like I was, I realised what had happened, but I was ushered to the dressing room then by security.
I felt that towards the end of the game that Jimmy had lost the complete run of himself altogether. That I think he had lost control of himself rather than lost control of the game. Because I know that with 15 minutes to go, he knew there was 15 minutes to go because he told one of the players the exact time there was left, and it matched what was on the video afterwards. So I think we will never know what happened, what really happened, or what Jimmy Cooney's reason for blowing the whistle when he did was.
Well, I was in a state of shock, I'd say now, really. You know, when you realise that you have made a mistake, and especially made a mistake in a very, very important game in All-Ireland semi-final, it's not a nice feeling.
Back here at Croke Park, there are extraordinary scenes taking place down on the pitch. The Offaly supporters have come onto the pitch and are now staging a protest over this semi-final replay.
The whole thing had an air of just the complete bizarre about it. And we all left Croke Park convinced that we were in the All-Ireland and that Offaly were out of it.
In my report, I put down that I played the match 5 minutes short. They took a decision that replay would be the only fair outcome out of it, so that is what happened.
A bond developed between the players and the supporters that I don't think we had before that, and we felt it for the next year or two, but it was never anything as close as that. I certainly think it had a huge part to play in us going on and winning the All-Ireland that year.
Who would realistically and honestly have said at the start of the year that it would be Kildare against Galway in the 1998 All-Ireland football final?
Both Kildare and Galway were looking for the Holy Grail. Kildare for their first All-Ireland, Galway to bridge the gap back to the 3-in-a-row team of the 60s. And Kildare had the better of the exchanges early on in the match, and they looked like they might achieve their All-Ireland. And then
the moment that changed the game was when Michael Dallin got the ball away back in defence and soloed nearly the full into the field.
Martin Lynch going across there, and Tomas Mannion, they said he might have his hands full this afternoon against the likes of Martin Lynch. He's such a good player. Look how deep Michael Donlan has come. On for Kevin Walsh. A real tearaway play this. That's a great movement. Michael Donlan right through the heart of the Kildare defence. Laying it off here for Derek Savage. Sabo playing it outside to Sean Oak, the player. And that has gone over the bar.
I was lucky in that I nearly had too much time to shoot, so it just crept inside the post by about a foot. But certainly that point was all Michael's making. His run up the field was electrifying and really got the crowd going.
Taken up here by Michael Donlan, who's a terrific footballer, coming forward, looking for another score for Galway, and that's another one.
He's a fabulous player, fabulous talent, full of speed, skill and strength. So certainly I'll be telling my grandkids that I played with Michael Donlan.
Galway won the All-Ireland to that occasion. Michael Dundon is the star.
Going back to 2001, there was real novelty value about Dublin playing Kerry and Thurles, normally hurling taking place there, but this was a football quarter-final and renewing the great rivalry between the two counties.
I watched most of that game myself, to tell you the truth, on the sideline with, I think I was sitting next to Peter O'Leary and the Din Massouse, John Kelly, and it was a particular game that was going very well for Kerry. I think Kerry Wundine is sitting dominating for most of the first half exchanges, and I'd say certainly even going into the second half we were holding a good stranglehold on the game.
As it turned out, we were 5 points down. I actually thought we were 6 at the time, and Vinnie Murphy came on. We'd been using him as an impact sub over the summer, scored a goal.
An inviting ball in, Sherlock has it. A lot of green gold shirts back, Vinnie Murphy scores!
It was probably late in the game, perhaps the last 7 minutes or so when I was entered into the fray. There was a frantic and frenetic pace to the game, which was difficult to get to the pace of.
And it's fisted in and it's in the goal!
I was sure at that stage that it was a level game, and it was only when I turned around to somebody on the sideline when Maurice Fitzgerald was standing up and said, "Is this it?" And he said, "No, we're a point ahead, we're a point ahead." I remember running down the sideline then because I thought it was too far for Maurice to put over the bar. I thought he'd be looking for something sharp, so I started roaring at the backs to mark up.
Kerry's whole year came down to the last minute, a sideline ball that Kerry got, and Maurice Fitzgerald stood up to take it.
The man who can kick with the right or kick with the left. The breeze is behind him, but it's blowing over his left shoulder. He's got it! He's put it over! It's a magnificent kick by Maurice Fitzgerald from the sideline.
He was able to shape the ball kind of banana style over the bar. And when you look at the pictures for a moment, for a split second, you think this isn't going to make it, it's actually going to drop short. But it sailed over almost perfectly over the black spot. One of the most amazing points I've ever seen.
One of the greatest footballers I think that our county has presented, and that's saying something because no doubt our county produced some marvellous footballers, but Maurice, I'd say, would be one of the great ones.
And there's the man about so much has been said over the years. One of the greatest players I think I've ever seen play hurling, DJ Carey.
My memories of 2002, first of all, I suppose it was a very short year for myself. I'd only come back in August. I had a bad run of injuries during the year. The match itself wasn't long on when I personally and Kilkenny got off to a great start.
Thundering forward, looking for the opening score, it's a goal! Everybody going up for that one. It's John Hoyne who's trapped it through the centre. DJ Carey, the Dodger himself. After him there was Ollie Baker. DJ steadying himself, turning it in beautifully and putting it over the bar, and he's now got a goal and 4 points.
The ball caught twice, couldn't catch it again. And the obvious thing to do, the simple thing to do for most hurlers would be just to drop it to the ground and take it in his hand and hit it over the bar. But I suppose it never really entered his head because the execution of that very difficult skill for DJ isn't difficult.
It was a moment in time that will live in the memory forever. DJ Carey has left many an indelible imprint in all the games in the course of his magnificent career.
I didn't really think about it at that time. I didn't realise the significance of it. There wasn't an awful lot in the game, you know, it was quite close. That point went over the bar, and I suppose in some ways it rose us a little bit and deflated Clare.
He brought everything to hurling. He's a great tackler, he's a great player, he's a great winner of the ball. His skills, he just had them all. And he's been the most exciting player in hurling for a long, long time.
For years, Peter Canavan had lived with this tag of the greatest player to never have won an All-Ireland title. His chance came, another chance after losing the 95 final, in the 2003 final, a local derby, an all-Ulster final against Armagh.
I actually picked up an ankle injury against Kerry in the All-Ireland semi-final. That virtually ruled me out of the final.
Myself and Peter had a long conversation and we determined that it would be better, you know, to have him on at the start because it would be a big setback to both the players and the Tyrone spectators if he wasn't fielding. So he says, right, we'll give it a go at the start, see how long you can last, and if you're feeling the pinch, we'll come off and we'll not rule out a return to the fray.
In fact, I spent the first 7-8 minutes of the second half in the changing rooms getting a painkilling injection in the ankle. But I was delighted then just to get the opportunity to come back on again.
This is great play by the management of Tyrone, bringing back Peter Canavan to give them the vital leadership for the remaining 7-8 minutes of the 114th All-Ireland final. They're using up the 5 subs now available in a way that many coaches have not done, in my experience, in the past championship season.
And that was a great boost at the end to bring him in again. I suppose something hadn't been done much before, but it worked well for us on the day.
Probably a big gamble from Mickey's point of view, because if Tyrone had lost that game, there would have been an outcry, why did he bring on a man that wouldn't fit to run or wouldn't fit to play? So the fact that we won, people will see it as a masterstroke.
We had a lot in common in terms of our will to win, and it was nice that a neighbour of mine and one of my own parish would be the captain of the team at that time and ultimately would collect the Sam Maguire.
I can't think of a better position or a better place to be in right now anywhere in the world than where I'm standing.
Walking up the steps to knowing that I was going to be the first thrown man to lift the Sam Maguire would be a moment that will definitely stay with me for the rest of my life.
I think I've said enough. It's time to take Sam to throne.
OK then, now you've seen the entire 20 moments, and all you have to do at this stage is get voting. Now, if you didn't get a chance to take down those telephone numbers, don't worry, because the full list of 20 is on Airtel. That's on page 193. There's also a website you can visit. That's www.rte.ie/TV/GAA Moments. Right then, thank you very much indeed for your company. Hopefully we'll see you next weekend. Live special 7th of May. Until then, bye-bye.